you're back to the classroom. Now, you're back to the classroom. It's all about your tertiary institutions and the fact that the University Teachers Association of Ghana, they are on strike. Almost strike, you know. Aya ketua sem ho ensem. Omo so maketua iswa. Womo ni aban aya agreement. Aban empese obetua womo sika e de amu womo. Womo e hya ase no, womo e suspended no. Hoping say womo ni aban betina se abobo ho na they will be able to come to some finality, but that did not happen, and so they lay down their tools again. It's the third week we are in now. And after 21 days, now we would have to shut down the universities. What would that mean for tertiary education? Our my say more. Opani Yao Agbenyo, our menche or a PRO for the Graduate Students Association of Ghana, Menino AD and Commander Chief. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I'm hoping you're doing well.
By grace, I'm fine.
It's good to have you in the studio. So I just read your statement to our viewers and our listeners, where you highlight some concerns, and the most important amongst them for me is your call on the government to speedily resolve all issues with the lecturers. But before we dive into the concerns therein, how's campus?
Campus is directionless.
Directionless?
Yes. There's no direction, no purpose. There's nothing going on. Students are just there. They're like water without containers. Basically, students are just roaming around. Those who play Jama are doing so. Those jumping up and down are doing so. In fact, there is nothing purposeful going on campuses across the country. And it's a sad situation.
It's interesting the picture you paint for us, that students are on campus and all they're doing is sharing Jama and aimlessly going about. But you would expect that being at the tertiary institution would impose on you some discipline.
Yeah, that's true. But if the lecturers are not there to do anything, what else do you expect students to do? They don't have course outlines. Especially the first years, don't know what they are expecting in the semester. So even if they sit down, what are they going to learn? What are they going to follow? There's no course outline. There are no references given to anybody. So they are just walking around.
I'll come back to you, Yao. But let me quickly dash to the phone lines and speak to Dr. Samuel Bwedi Kusi, who is the president UCC chapter of UTAG, and find out whether there's been some breakthrough in terms of deliberations with government. Doc, it's good to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning, my brother.
I'm hoping you're doing well, sir.
By grace, I'm fine.
Doc, what's the state of affairs presently?
Let me say that last week there were some engagements, right from the Vice Chancellor's Ghana, the Sector Minister, Dr. Duchum, and the Minister of Employment and Labor Relations, Deputy Minister of Finance, a couple of others, the GTAG, Director General, and all that. There were some engagements. Unfortunately, I cannot see that the outcome was so fruitful to have gotten UTAG to get back to the lecture rooms to teach. So unfortunately, that's where we have been. The whole of this week, I don't think there has been any serious meetings to report. So unfortunately, that's where we are.
It's interesting the point about your description of the meeting you've had with top executives of the government, and you don't think you would describe it as fruitful. Now, what are the issues lingering now, and how is it that we are not able to make a headway?
Yeah, I think that the issues we've discussed over and over. I mean, you have lecturers talking about their salaries, talking about the market premium or interim market premium declining from a certain 114% of their basic to almost about 50% as we speak. And so therefore the take home has dwindled so much. But of course, the other side of it is that the employer also feels that, look, there's a process for us to go through to arrive at something new. And that is where there is a bone of contention that, yes, whilst we believe that you need, all the time to begin implementation, then do something about what has already eroded so that we can take time. Because then the historical perspective is that, the market premium, the single spine implementation came into being somewhere 2012, 2013. In 2014, there was supposed to be a labor market survey to have reviewed the premiums. It happened, but then review of the salary did not happen. And so if in 2019, another survey has been conducted, and the report is now out in 2022, without its accompanying figures as to how much people are going to receive or otherwise, then it creates a certain level of discussion. So that is where there is some bit of disagreement, whether, to return to the tables without any offer or put an offer to the lecturers, something to cushion them whilst we go through the implementation. The processes to implement the new survey that that has been conducted. So basically, I think it's some level of disagreement and some level of mistrust along the line. But I believe that these are things we can overcome. We can overcome, given all the brains we have around, given the leaders that we have around. I think that these are things we can easily let reason prevail, so that we can overcome the current challenge we are faced with.
Doc, UCC, Legon, KNUST, you have top professors who are very much versed in economics and finance. And these are the same people as media folks we engage all the time. And the picture they paint for us is that the economy is not doing well. Some have even described the state of affairs of the economy as being broke. And therefore, one would expect that UTAG would know this and therefore should be able to come to some consensus with government as to some payment module so as to get these things you're asking for after we are out of the woods. Is that too much to ask if I made that call?
No, from our perspective, these are things we have put on the table long ago. It's not as if that we are demanding a one-time payment or anything. No, that has not been the call. If you check proposals we have submitted as far back as 2018 and all that, we have made proposals as to even getting a certain roadmap to be able to adjust the salaries over a certain period. As I remember in 2018, a paper we presented, we made a forecast, and that forecast was to project even up to 2021, from 2018 to 2021. And as we speak, we are now in 2022. So all that forecast we did virtually is gone. So these are proposals we have presented, roadmaps and all that. But unfortunately, it appears we have not been able to agree on any of these.
What's the difficulty for government when you meet them for these discussions? Wherein lies their difficulties?
Of course, I do not qualify to speak for the employer, unfortunately. But what I see coming up, in most cases, is the rippling effects of, attending to the needs of one union and the effect it will have. Others jumping on board to be able to say that, okay, if you have done it for A, then do it for B and all that. So the rippling effect is, from where I sit, is what I think is the most difficulty for the employer. But as I said, yes, if we know all these things, but of course we cannot say that because of a rippling effect, then people should continue to suffer. But as I keep saying, I think that we need to engage further. We need to engage more, and then quickly see how we can come out of this. I think it's doable. It's something that we can overcome.
Do we have space enough to go through these, marathon negotiations you are embarking on, seeing that there's a possibility for us to shut down our universities?
Well, that is another side of the conversation. Well, to shut down or not to shut down, again, I as a union leader, I don't qualify to speak to that. That is for management of the various institutions to decide. I mean, there are regulations as to whether they will go by those regulations or not. It's something else that they will have to. But it's important that we keep our eye on that ball so that we don't hit that ground before we begin to act. And so we have heard, I mean, trying to go the legal way. I mean, the NLC and other stakeholders trying to go the legal way, intending to go to court or have gone to court and intend to move. I mean, these are things that, from where some of us we sit, we think that we are better off engaging, dialoguing than going the legal battle, because then it makes everybody takes an entrenched position. And in this time, I don't think that we need, entrenched positions being at polar ends. It's not going to really help us. So I would say that we have an opportunity to engage more than we have done, and I think that we can find a solution out of these engagements.
What would you say is lacking in all this?
Well, I think that from the union's perspective, what is lacking is commitment to, on the side of the employer to be able to say that, look, I am putting X, Y, Z on the table, to be able to get the union to consider. And I see so because, you see, the thing is that from a perspective of labor, it's better to say that, look, suspend your industrial action and come for negotiation. Let's sit down and talk. But our immediate history is what has also made the lecturers also taking a certain posture. That, look, we have had a recent history where we suspended, and we think that some of the things that we appended our signature to, that we said we were going to talk about after we suspended, it was like, no, these are areas we cannot go, and so we were back to square one. We only find something in one area and all that. So it's the commitment, and I think that the commitment and the economic space and all that is what is playing out. But as I end up going around to see that, in spite of these difficulties, I want to believe that we can be more transparent and be very candid with each other in a very friendly atmosphere and find a way around it. I think that we need to resolve this within the shortest possible time. It is not in our interest to sit and watch the universities shut down. When we can dialogue more and get. I would even say that if we have to lock ourselves out in a room for 2 weeks, 2 days, 3 days, and come out with a solution, we should consider it.
Final one is a statement that came from GRASAG. I read a paragraph where they appeal to you. They say, while we plead with government to expedite steps to call off the strike action, we humbly appeal to UTAG to consider the plight of our members and resume work since it has the potential of affecting academic calendar of the university. This appeal, have you heard it, and what's your response?
Yes, I haven't read it, but I have seen their statements flying around. I haven't had the space to read, but it's a genuine appeal. It's a genuine appeal. But again, I go back to the fact that, yes, even though it's a genuine appeal, the ordinary lecturer also has taken a certain decision. Look, we want the employer to this time around acknowledge and consider that we are in a very worse condition if the community is concerned, and so the employer do something at least for once for the academic community. And so, yes, in as much as I agree with GRASAG and appeal, I think that we should also see reason in what the lecturer is saying, and so that all of us can find a space to be able to agree around one thing and come back to teach, because that's one of our core business is to teach. So to come to work to only concentrate on research, concentrate on doing some other community service and attending the there and not teaching while the students are around is really not the best for all of us.
Dr. Bode Kusi, we are grateful you made time to speak to us this morning, sir.
So, sir.
And that's the UCC chapter UTAG president joining us this morning and giving us some updates as to what they've been doing so far in terms of their deliberations with government. You listened to your lecturer, if I may put it that way. What did you make of his submission? You see a headway?
Well, I think he has, they have their point, and that is why we as GRASAG, we are actually backing UTAG in their call for government to adhere to and go on with their agreement that they've had with UTAG. We are not saying that UTAG is asking for any ridiculous thing or asking anything extraordinary from government. All that they are saying is that government has had an agreement with UTAG, and just go by your agreement. How difficult is this? You have had an agreement with UTAG some time ago, and so just remit your agreement to the lecturers so they go back to the classroom. We believe that there is only one party in this whole field that has the potential, the ability, and what it takes to call off this strike, and that is government. And that will only happen when government does what it has to do for the lecturers to go back to the classroom.
Do you think we've done enough so far?
Well, we are still on. We are still on, and we're hoping that government will listen to us, will take heed to our call, and then make sure that they get the lecturers what they've been asking for so they can go back to the classroom.
Let's go back to campus and let's have an appreciation of the impact of all that is happening on you, be it your social life, be it your academic life, whatever it is. How does this impact on you as students?
Of course, as students, we want to complete school. There are people in the final year who will have to complete school. But with this delay, it means that some time will have to be added or something. Some sort of work will need to be cut off, or by whatever way, the student stands at the extreme end, the suffering end. And whatever government has with UTAG, students don't have much to do about it, but we are the ones suffering. You see, people have come to school and there is no academic schedule. They don't have any plan. Nobody is telling them what is going to happen. Nobody tells them whether the lecturers are going to call off the strike or not, and they are just there. You see, and so students are really, in fact, if I should tell you, students are very, very unhappy with what is going on. Our students are
unhappy
really,
with who?
Especially with government's refusal, if I will put it that way, government's refusal to heed to the lecturers' call and demand so that they can go back to the classroom. We are not just, if you look at our release very carefully, we are passionately calling on government to adhere to what the lecturers are asking for, because we know that government has what it takes to get the lecturers back to the classroom. But on the other hand, also, we are appealing to the lecturers to go back to the classroom. But we know very well that the major onus lies on the government to do what the lecturers are asking for. So for the lecturers' side, we think that though they may want to consider what we are saying, but the chunk of the action is not from their side, it's rather from government side. And so if students are unhappy, they are not unhappy with lecturers. They are unhappy with government. So government will have to do what is right so the lecturers can go back to the classroom for academic work to resume.
Are we not mounting undue pressure on government, seeing that the world economies are on their knees, seeing that as we speak now, there's an e-levy which is being sensitized so that people would get the concept for government to even gain revenue for government business. If government is going to pay the lecturers, it will be from the revenue that they generate. Is it not obvious that we don't have what it takes to meet the demands of the lecturers?
I don't think so.
Why?
Because as far as I am concerned, one time ago, my senior housemaster has a saying, where there is a will, there is a way. So if government really wants to take into consideration what the lecturers are asking for, government will find a way of doing it. Really? Government will always find it. I don't want to even talk about the e-levy yet, but I do think that government has what it takes to adhere or listen to the calls of the lecturers. And so they should just have to do that. They just have to do that so the lecturers can go back to the classroom.
Let me speak to Priscilla Kadi Yawura. She is the SRC president for the SD Dombo University of Business and Integrated Development Studies, formerly UDS, WA campus, and find out how campus is and how they are coping. Priscilla, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm hoping that you're doing well.
I'm fine, thank you.
Describe campus for us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Priscilla Kadi Vaura.
Vaura. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Currently, students are on campus. We just had our level 100 students reporting on the 10th of January. Our campus or our university, we run a trimester system. So we began our first trimester in November 15th. And for the students on campus, we suffered some local strike actions already on campus before going home. So there was some frustration, some tensions on campus before we even left. So students came back in January with the hope that lectures is going to continue and that we are going to have like a smooth academic calendar. But immediately we arrived on campus on the 10th, we heard that UTAG was going on a national strike, which really most of the students were not really happy about it. And they were just asking here and there, when is the strike going to be called off? When can we resume lectures? And it's so sad because when you enter our campus, it's as quiet as a cemetery. And for we, the final year students who are wrapping up to finish our project work and then complete school, most of them are really frustrated because they feel that we've paid a lot of money, we've paid our academic facility, like our fees, we've paid our rent, and then we expect that by now lectures are ongoing and then we finish or we wrap up with the academic calendar. But if you look at what is happening, it means that if the strike is not called off per the stipulated time, we would have to spend more, and the financial burden, the stress, the emotional stress, the psychological stress is not easy on the students. So campus is not something good to talk about. Students are frustrated, students are stressed out over the strike issue, and we are just hoping that the strike will be called off and then lectures would resume as soon as possible.
Now, I know the students' unions are in support of what their lecturers are doing to ensure that fairness prevails in terms of their remuneration. But
yes,
one would also say that your position to throw your weight behind UTAG is one of the factors that is emboldening them to continue with the strike, seeing that the people at the center of all this are even throwing their weight behind them.
Yes, it's true that most of the students front are supporting UTAG, and it's all because of the fact that I think last year UTAG went on a strike. We came in, National MNUCs came in, intervened, and then they called off the strike with the hope that government would listen to them. So it's like now they've gotten to a point where they expect that government will give them that assurance, that commitment that whatever their grievances are, government will be able to rectify that for them. But as it stands now, it's not being done. So as students, most of us, our parents are lecturers, and we understand the frustration they are going through. So if you have a parent who is a lecturer and he or she is complaining about their conditions of services, you can only sympathize with that particular group and call on government to listen to them and see how best they can come to consensus on the matter. I think basically that is why most of the student fronts are throwing their weight on the UTAG union.
Do you think government is doing enough?
Well, with the current state of affairs, I think that government should at least, I'm just trying to say that they should give some commitment. Commitments are important. You need to commit to, they need to commit to UTAG and let UTAG know that, look, even though the current economic state is not good, but we are ready to meet you at a certain point of your needs. At least if the two parties would come together and have a roundtable discussion and then see how they can meet each other halfway, I think we wouldn't have been suffering this way. So government needs to play that critical role in ensuring that at least they listen and then they make some commitments towards what they are asking for, UTAG is asking for.
Final one would be the comment you hear on campus as to those who are in various hostels and the amount they paid. You run the trimester system, and so they are paid for a certain time to be on campus. And
Yes.
so the absence of the lectures, academic work is not going on, they are paid already. And so if there's a
Yes.
delay, I don't know how the arrangements are in terms of the owners of these properties as to whether it is going to travel into the time when school reopens or not. But what are the comments in terms of these hurdles that are ahead of students?
Yes, you see, that was why I was trying to let you understand the frustration, because let me even let you understand that most of our students are off campus. About 80% of the students are off campus. So imagine all these students paying for rent, and the landlords charge us based on our academic calendar, not on yearly basis. So for instance, the academic calendar began in November. So in the next November, your rent is probably expiring and stuff. So the way they do it, now that the academic calendar is supposed to move, like it's shifting, we would have to look for extra money to pay an additional cost, because by that time your rent would have expired and you will need to top up your rent, you will need to top up your electricity, your water, your food and all that. So it's really something that the students are not happy about. And for my campus, they even threatened to go on a demonstration because they were tired of the strike actions that were happening on campus. You know, I told you we had two local strikes. One was that of the UTAG in early November, and then the second one was that of the local workers union. And these were internal strikes that hindered academic learning on campus. So for us, it's not easy on our part, and we are just hoping that government would, as a matter of urgency, look into the issues and then ensure that the lecturers come back to campus and then teach us so that we can complete our academic calendar.
Do you foresee a speedy resolution of this impasse so as to avoid the closure of these universities?
We are hoping. I think we are just left with some few days for the universities to possibly close down. So from the posture of UTAG seem to want to get what they want. So we just hope that at least in getting what they want, they would at least be flexible in a way so that whatever government is going to propose, they can think through and see how best they can adjust in terms of how they can compromise in one way or the other to ensure that they meet each other halfway. So we are anticipating that at least by the close of the week, we'll hear something positive. But we do not want to get to that point where they will close down universities and students would have to go back home. I think it will be insensitive on the part of government to allow us to get to this point where universities would have to close down. Sorry.
Priscilla, I thank you for making time to join us this morning on the Happy Morning Show.
Thank you so much.
And that's Priscilla Kadi Varua joining us this morning, the SRC president for UDS, formally sharing her thoughts with us. Do you foresee this matter being resolved so as the schools would not be shut down? Do you see that happening?
Well, picking from Vaura's point, Vaura says government lacks the commitment, you see, and that is our worry, that we are not seeing the commitment from the side of government. Let's hear something from the government that, oh, we have heard you, we will do this and this and this and this. But government over the period has been silent, and that is our worry. So with this silence from government, we don't know whether they are going to heed or not, but we are just hoping that government will listen and then do the right thing, so the lecturers go back to the classroom to avoid schools being closed down.
What would it mean for the schools to be shut down? Holding all other things equal, that we were not able to come to a consensus and so schools have to be shut down. What would it mean for a student, a regular student?
We don't pray it gets there. We pray it doesn't get there. But if it happens, it has a lot of consequences. People are doing their research work, and it will come to a halt. Those who have to graduate will have to shift their graduation to another time. Those undergraduates who have one internship or the other, there are a lot of things that if universities are shut down now will come to a limbo, and we are hoping that it doesn't get there. We just want to see government commitment to end this impasse. And I just hope that government does what is right, so the lecturers go back to the classroom. That has been our call, and it remains our only message. Government knows what is right. They should just do it, so the lecturers go back to the classroom.
Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us live on the Happy Morning Show, live on ETV, live on Happy 98.9 FM, live on Nisim 95.9 and 100.1. I'd like to hear your comment on the UTAG strike, its impact it's having on students on campus, and the fact that now we are inching closer to that time when we all pray it doesn't happen, but the possibility of the shutdown of these tertiary institutions, its likely impact it may have on the students, non-teaching staff, and then the teaching staffs themselves. I'd like to hear your comments on this matter. And so we will try and engage the mood on the various campuses. We'll try and find out what's happening there. But at least Yao made us have a bit of understanding as to what's happening on campus. He says that most of the students are, roaming virtually aimlessly on campus, drumming and dancing and sharing their jama as usual. But we get joined on the line by Kwekwahi, Central Regional Correspondent, na Morocco do Ewo UCC no on from Bay. Kweku, anapanyum tiren.
Jamana do mo sami poto wasa po mi tiren.
Chacha kwemu kakaka, izin komo achero.
Izin komo achero papa. This am the izin komo.
Yenin komo. But I must pat you on the back as well. The very many nominations you have been getting in the Central Region, you're doing a good job there, Kweku.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Now, UCC today, pay.
Sami anape yama iti fa which happy 98.9 FM na pay. I can forward to ETV akwaba no mo pay e won just 59 there I can forward charge e wish upon our home. Man kind of madi or ya banas no mo nyina was woko. We gonna be go for ma one can you in one allowance and was India other Ghana but not more share no tia mo no tia for mo ndeshuma one now was one that no was one pen and one chalk in go for ma. What one collection horse and catch the ADBM. Now, just a people so it can't. The moon at a chef come kuno or a UTAG no. What can be sanapay and Mopemo uses that. In fact, uses Sanka first year's number. Nobody born and dumb like they do. In fact, I shall push a video at the Bonadi I come eba baby work for one shuttle what we call one various lecture horse na metro mass transit na what for the shuttle na in fact when the station when why try dem be back why very try students for no keke bi kuma bi na wan ga wannan mu a do this na so kai na zai e wona hall the go collection wana sul question na din ma in fact I say for what do we happen when it's actually what on in fact Joseph Kepus wa affect your year na na san many champion museum komo many level 3 ni cruising komo many level 4 ni cruising komo na many level 100 ni cruising komo level 400 ni on na some kan de eshuma it's actually what no obaman kan be or the what you school no obachan kwesi nti what just abande hwe na nka onyi atef nka sentemi a so de eshuma what it is ne ko baye da fane ba sa ko ba da fanana ni nka bayan ka fa no hwe no ya chef nan kasa na won hwe na won bra no ba che na ali level 10 ni music community ma ono kwano friend ni wa ba no campus wa ba se no ba spend oye 6 weeks na 6 weeks no na ni 3 weeks I chef na ba che na no tell so wo ba no ba che aga amma wa che wona ko ti bi na wa che wo school nti abana hwe na nka anya ya chef nka na won ba no ba che so the 6 weeks no na I chef na spend ni 3 weeks no today o ba ban so ma che na ko ti na wana kwa mana ka si la ba no ni zi also wo ba school no in zaman ka ile wo ba wo ye mo ni na na wanye aisha ma orientation a nya no wa ya ma wani zina so nka wo sa sin go do wushi lecture for class na mo multi nti won oyo wanye yi pa and after so won come na wo zi na anya de aisha ma mpepe no bebe na wa ba campus a obere wo mu de the chef na chi tia won ba cha de no na wa so ko ya kankan wana wo around campus and pete med na na no one is obere no wo ko bi nu sa what today I chef no wo ko wa chi tia no wa ba cha de wo lecture house bi mu kwa wa ba ka one ba school and one ba campus today bush na what can over to that abano obaba abano obakata chef no one ba na abaya chef na pa jam one ansana once wa ba na ni name no wo say ko horse bi today oye ogwa hall kwame nkomo hall ekwa casford ekwa oye bako hall na tradition hall ekwa oye SRC hall PSI hall ni na horse no ni podoma nka wo ba wo ba shonga ga sele 100 of no ba wo horum no minya same ebosha ebo le ni pa da atso kra bebe na ko be no no great for all wo ko fi idu so ko wa kai wo na za wo kai idu so ma kra ni na inde le chef no wa chi tia eba University of is one main administration blog now. Administration work in the local and the vice chancellor make us accountant registrar by a second vice chancellor. We na pro vice chancellor no one cast na din now administration work in the local minimum I can say for now it didn't work campus ebo wa park one cast UTAG second move in now so was my bwana do or ordinary juma wa na ka man dia bad administration blogger oba zaman kwa na dey busy mekanma some the makade use the campus ade I try in level 100 for the ba na mansa mukocha for UCC campus for nanka bas na kwenu ndamo wo school no dos announce fit the bra what he chabe that you know campus I try drivers for nedman kodi starting service on kodi e da altano for no wonjama wana na tena company ide shafa wo ba about wana no be na wo be no woko lectures you want wo be no woko it is some bisema UCC campus them not see as far as UTAG strike is concerned.
Quickly, at the time for taxi drivers, commercial drivers are all criminal. Obviously, obey impact one. On say,
them na can right no cover impact is wa bon the negatively. Na ka wa bon lo. So na UCC taxi drivers no or stickers was them one on the campus taxi from one to educate for need them campus secondary taxi secondary I won't say member national echo UCC science station UCC science dia one at one station na echo one there cars and so load no if town na oba ibo ma all no I staff over you ma now so in the bound then car student from wa cars load whatever station one member student for solo for don't go outside and after one horse I run as the campus goes so you go student to nance for nazi wa ba form after so metro mass transit school pay for one eye and just say war shuttle center bon the video meet go one mark this wa is for the one lecture horse na one horse na the echema Any nas what from a bona bastos one on your man which on your man cafe was a lie on one, which is sitting as in Kansas 100 from about, which is sitting one as no off on and there. Babu from I want to make one I want to which a bus conductors no ever come with some come do this and a more food than that. Nina and there, Igmanamba, walk from one or another so another turn up for food crack day. If I be now wakafa phone one zama wakafa oye underwear panties na laba overcome is half and wabeno Damano on call Sunday Shafano, the Benamba campus or Sunday lectures no walk or strike in Toba campus who's our way or see as a time driving a Jumano in terms of metro mass one shuttle service in the taxi more campus no Macade wow affect in or negatively.
Kogu Alphamed was the gym na and meeting come out war happy morning show do.